Are you someone that has a separation of their ab muscles where you get a bulging or a coning out the center? Or are you someone that has low back pain or stiffness, or just you're feeling a lack of flexibility in that area and you're looking for more core strength, core stability in general? Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sara, family physician, wife, mom of four, and exercise enthusiast. So I am here today exploring a little bit of a different type of video where I'm going to tell you all about my favorite low back, deep core exercise. So this is an exercise that's called a bird dog, and I'm going to explain to you why it's my favorite, show you how to do it, all of that. So I am someone that has been pregnant multiple times. I currently have 4 children. And after my second child, I found out that I had what's called diastasis recti, which is a fancy way of saying that my ab muscles were separated instead of being together. And this is actually quite common in pregnancy and in the postpartum period. And in hindsight, I actually had this after my first child. I just was not made aware of it, and I quite honestly did not know to look for it. But after my second child, my OB at the time said, yep, this is definitely, you have this. We're going to send you to physical therapy to address this, as well as some pelvic floor issues that I had. And when the physical therapist found out that I also had a personal history of a low back injury and some chronic low back pain, she said, this is the exercise that's going to be super helpful for you. And I'll link below. I have a video explaining all about my low back injury and back pain and how I've resolved that. So I'll link that below if you want to check that out. But so this is where I first learned about the bird dog exercise, was because of my issues in the postpartum period. And I have had this ab separation with all 4 of my pregnancies, and I have been able to heal it, which basically means bring it back together. Now, like I said, this is something that is quite common in the postpartum period, and that's how I developed it, but it can happen in both men and women, and it can happen at various ages. And so it is something to keep in mind, that you can definitely talk with your doctor about it if you have concerns about your ab area sort of bulging out or coning out when you do traditional ab exercises, for example, crunches. So this is something to just keep in mind. It's not only for postpartum people, it can be helpful for everyone. And like I said, it's not just to address the deep core, it also really can help with low back issues, with pain, with stiffness, with flexibility, with balance, with coordination. So this exercise does all of that. I also find that it's a very accessible exercise in the way that even when I am very freshly postpartum, not exercising for typically 6 weeks, at least not in the way that I do when I'm not pregnant or postpartum, it's something that is doable and manageable. And there are ways that you can modify it that can make it, easier or harder depending on where you fall in the spectrum of your activity level and what's comfortable for you. You do have to be able to get onto your hands and knees to be able to do that. And again, I always recommend, if you think this is something you want to try, you definitely want to talk to your doctor and get their thoughts on it. But like I said, it can be incredibly helpful for the low back, for ab separation, and for balance and coordination. It also, mental health wise, I find almost works how stretching sometimes does for me, where it helps to center me and give me sort of a moment to breathe and think and sit, because it's not quite as, like running on the treadmill type of stuff where you're maybe more focused and that sort of thing. So I find that it can be really helpful mental health wise as well. So those are all the reasons why it's one of my favorite activities. And again, helped me with my low back pain and my deep core. So I'm gonna kind of pop back here. Hopefully I will stay in the frame. and I'll show you how this works. So the position that you want to get in is what's called quadricep, or an all fours position. So you can see my back or my spine is in what's called a neutral alignment. So it's not arched in this way, and it's also not arched this way. It's just kind of an in-between neutral where it's flat. And then you want your shoulders, elbows, and wrists in line, and you want your hips over your knees. And you want to try to make sure that your hips are aligned where they're sort of like headlights pointing towards the floor. You don't want to be like, it's kind of hard to show, but you don't want your hips to be off kilter. And the idea with this move or with this exercise is you want to try to make sure you're keeping the hips in line and not letting one hip drop when you go through the exercise. So the most straightforward basic way to start this is you basically hover your left hand up. So you just kind of lift it up, make sure everything stays nice and even. And when you lift is when you would be exhaling and doing your 360 breathing, which I have a video on that and I will link to that below. But so that's where you're exhaling like you're blowing out birthday candles. You're tightening up those ab muscles, the corset muscles that wrap around, and then you put it back down when you inhale. Then you can add in a hover of the opposite leg. So if I'm bringing my left arm up, I'm hovering my right knee up, and you exhale on the lift, and then you inhale back down. Now the full bird dog is doing full extension. So if you're doing that and that's good, you're challenging yourself, then just stay there. But the traditional non-modified version is you would want to inhale, and then so on that extension of your arm and leg, you're exhaling forcefully like you're blowing out hundreds of birthday candles. You're maintaining alignment of your hips pointing towards the floor, and you are feeling that deep core corset muscle contracting around your belly. And then you would inhale to bring it back down. And then you would do the same thing on the other side. So you would inhale, exhale, and again, that exhale is a little more prolonged than a typical exhale, and you're doing it forcefully and feeling that corset muscle contract. When you inhale, you also want to be feeling those ribs expand in all directions. So your inhale is a deeper inhale, and you're expanding the ribs forwards, out to the side, and backwards. And that exhale that you're doing, engaging your deep core, is part of what helps with the bird dog to be able to strengthen your spine and improve your balance and flexibility. So let's just do that again for practice. So it's going to be inhale, exhale, inhale back down, and then exhale the other side, and inhale down. So that's kind of the basic movement. Again, the modification for that to make it easier is to just do a hover and a hover. And if you find that's tricky balance-wise, start with just one limb at a time. That's the most modified version. And once you get that down where you're not like, wiggling all over the place, then you just sort of do the one limb at a time. Now, for people that have that down, there are many things you can add and do to make it a little more challenging. So just some examples. You do your inhale, you exhale. So you can add some pulses of your leg like this while you're doing your breath. So you always want to continue to breathe through the move, if you're holding it up and you want to, every time you exhale, remember to contract that deep core corset muscle. Another variation is you can move your leg out laterally or to the side, and same, you can move your arm to the side. That's another variation. Another variation, you can do your inhale, exhale, and then on your next inhale, instead of bringing your arm and leg to the floor, you can do sort of a palm to knee tap here, and then back out, and then in and back out. And you can definitely, you can play around with holding it for different amounts of time. You can, of course, do repetitions, where you're doing repetitions of 5 or 10. But if you've never done anything like this before, again, the ways to tell if you should be progressing. So you want to make sure that you feel balanced. You're not tipping from side to side. That's the most important thing. The other thing is that you really have that inhale and exhale down. And I will say, when I first started, it was a little tricky to pair my breathing with the movement correctly. So you definitely have to practice that, and it will come easier to you as you practice to exhale on the harder part of the movement, which is the extension. So I hope that this was helpful to teach you one quick exercise that you can do on a daily basis, and it doesn't have to take more than a few minutes, but it can be, incredibly helpful for your back. It's a great deep core exercise, and it can be a gateway to more deep core exercises. And if there's interest, definitely thumbs this up, give me some comments, let me know. I can do more videos like this that show more exercise moves that you might be interested in. So if you are someone that's looking for more content like this, you feel sluggish, tired, groggy, and you're trying to figure out how to overcome all of that, you are someone that's looking for positivity and encouragement, and you're trying to fit exercise in, or you're trying to exercise more, but you just can't quite figure it out, movement can definitely help, and so can accountability. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely head over to my website, which the link will be in the description box. It's drsaraionescu.com, where you can sign up for my free newsletter. And definitely subscribe here, turn on your notifications, all the YouTube things, because this is where I create this sort of content, and I do these type of videos weekly. And then I'm also here every day in the short section, with quick little tips. And like I said, I'm going to be trying to incorporate more actual demonstration type videos so you can see the type of things that I've done that have been really effective for me. So imagine if that, you're someone that has what I had. You're postpartum and you have an ab separation, or you're not postpartum, but life has, you have that for whatever reason, and it's something that you're working on and you want to heal. Or you're someone that has low back pain or stiffness, or you're working on balance and coordination and flexibility. And you could do one exercise for just a few minutes a day, and it could change all of that for you. It could really help you. What else could happen? If you were able to do that in just a few minutes, what could you do if you were able to incorporate even more movement in your life? Hope this helps. Follow for more. Bye, everyone.